New Year's night in a cafe on TV, the address of the President of Russia and the song of the Ukrainian group Potap and Nastya sounds in the background. Stanislav Yermakov was fined 45,000 rubles for posting this video on the social network under an article about discrediting the Russian army. The DJ who played the song faces the same punishment. In the cafe itself, they suggest that the security forces may have been embarrassed by the line from the chorus about the pine. This song is already 13 years old and there is no politics in it. The norm on the so-called discrediting of the Russian army is applied by the courts in the Federation, focusing solely on the mood of the authorities.
Это зависит от судебной практики.
It depends on jurisprudence. The courts are intimidated. Courts in principle, we had pocket courts and pocket courts in war conditions. They are simply trying to feverishly respond to everything that the prosecutor's office, the investigative committee, that is, pocket courts, requires of them. In the conditions of war, they interpret discredit in the way that practically everyone in the investigative committee orders them.
In Chita, a man who described his dream about Zelensky on social networks was accused of discrediting the Russian army. Now he will pay a fine of 35,000 rubles for retelling his dream in a commentary to the BBC and Dost TV channel.
Two different women wrote two denunciations against me, one from Primorye, the other, it seems, from Chita. One did not like my broadcast on Dozhd, another didn't like the BBC video in my feed. Both denunciations will be administrative. Ivan Losiev fined for discrediting the Russian army in a comment for Siberia Realities.
By the way, in January, the same district court of Chita also fined Ivan Losiev's mother 30,000 rubles for liking her son's message about the death of mobilized Russians. They continue to oppress in Russia for anti-war position. So in Buryatia, an employee of Rosseti, Suranzan Ochirova, was fined because she wrote on the company's website, I quote, "The Buryats are against war and genocide. No mobilization, no war." The Buryat civil activist, 60-year-old Natalia Filonova, can get 10 years in prison. She is accused of allegedly attacking a police officer while being detained for participating in an anti-war protest. The woman was sent to a pretrial detention center, and her adopted 15-year-old son with a disability was forcibly taken to the hospital.
I demanded to explain to me on what basis I was being taken back to the department. I began to break free, a scuffle ensued. I had a pen in my hands the whole time. They started beating me in the car, grabbing my hands. This unfamiliar man pressed me. It was very crowded. I held the pen in my hands. He most likely scratched himself on this pen. They all squeezed me in the back seat. Everything happened quickly, but I repeat, I was sure that my life was in danger and therefore I defended myself as best I could. Natalia Filonova, activist, in a comment for Siberia Realities.
The security forces are also trying to punish those who have already left Russia. The State Duma proposed to confiscate the property of citizens who, in the opinion of the Russian authorities, publicly discredit the Russian army and criticize Putin. Experts say the relevant law could be ready by summer. In the meantime, the courts are churning out verdicts in absentia. So this week, Veronika Belotserkovskaya, the founder of the St. Petersburg magazine Sobaka.ru, received 9 years in prison. After the start of Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine, she left for France. Belotserkovskaya openly supports Ukraine and condemns the Putin regime.
Очевидно, что конфискация это будет дополнительное наказание.
Obviously, confiscation would be an additional punishment, so it was in Soviet times. Confiscation was considered as an addition to some other punishment, thereby some date which would be imposed in absentia. It is clear why. It means that those who are abroad are not afraid of prisons and camps. Well, to scare them with the fact that they can take their apartments, summer residences, and who has what, intimidate them.
Russian political scientist Ekaterina Shulman believes that the confiscation will not be massive but indicative, like the property will be taken away from several famous so-called national traitors in order to intimidate everyone else. Reported by Roman Smoler, Vasyl Panasyuk, UATV News.